All right, so you ever listen to an interview and think, man, there is just so much packed in there?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do I even begin to unpack all this?
For sure.
Well, that's what we try to do here on the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Go deep on a topic.
Yep.
Today, we are diving into a conversation with Bill Gates.
Okay.
Featured on the Jay Shetty podcast.
Interesting.
The YouTube title is Bill Gates. This one personality weakness made him billions. How to use your differences.
Catchy title.
Yeah, definitely designed to get you to click.
It worked on us.
Well, we listened to it and pulled out some of the best parts.
Yeah.
To make it easier for you to apply these lessons in your own life.
Exactly.
To navigate success, personal growth.
Yes.
And to see the world through the eyes of someone who has had a massive impact on the world.
Makes sense.
I mean, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
One of the first things that stood out to me was how Gates talked about his early days at Microsoft and his just incredible focus.
Yeah. He actually used the phrase monomaniacal focus.
Interesting word choice.
I mean, think about it.
Okay.
All those long hours,
right,
skipping vacations.
Yeah.
He didn't see it as a sacrifice at all.
Well, he clearly loved the work.
Yeah, she did.
Passion can be a huge motivator.
Absolutely. And it makes you think about what it really takes to reach those big goals.
Big goals, yeah.
Do you have to have that level of intensity?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
I mean, for some people, it might be too much.
Yeah.
But for Gates, it seems like it was a good fit.
Right. And back then, the whole idea of a computer on every desk, in every home,
right,
it seems kind of far-fetched to a lot of people.
It was a different time, for sure.
But he just kept pushing forward. He talked about feeling like he was part of something revolutionary.
Yeah.
And that competitive drive to be the ones to make it happen.
It's interesting how that early programming experience really shaped him.
Oh, absolutely.
Like a head start. Huge head start.
His parents got him into it.
Yeah, and his school too.
Thousands of hours of coding before most people even knew what that was.
It's like training for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Years before anyone else.
Exactly. And that early mastery combined with that drive to make his vision a reality.
It set him on a very specific path.
For sure.
And then there's the influence of his parents.
Right.
Which he talks about a lot in the interview.
They seem to have played a big role.
Really important. And in ways that were,
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe a little more complex than you might expect.
How so?
Well, he talks about how they accepted his differences.
Okay.
Even when they were confounded by him.
Confounded?
Yeah, like he was pushing back against them.
I see.
And it makes you wonder how their acceptance, even when they didn't quite understand him, really shaped his confidence.
That's a good point.
It's like they created a space for him to just be himself.
Exactly.
Without trying to force him into some kind of mold.
They were definitely involved in his education.
Oh, yeah, they were meeting with his teachers.
Trying to understand how best to support him.
And I loved the story he told about that 200-page report.
Oh, yeah, on Delaware?
Yeah, what kid does that?
Not many.
He said he was kind of embarrassed by it.
Understandable.
Like it was too much.
Right.
But it's that same kind of intense focus that later helped him tackle these huge, complex problems.
It's like what might seem strange or out of place in one setting can become a huge asset in another.
And his parents, they recognized this focus.
They did?
And they sent him to therapy.
Okay.
And to a private school.
Interesting. So they were proactive?
Very much so. They weren't trying to fix him.
Right.
It was more about giving him an environment where his strengths could flourish.
And his challenges could be addressed.
Exactly.
That's a really important distinction.
It is.
It's not about labeling something as wrong or broken.
Right.
It's about providing the right support.
Yeah, and it sounds like that early experience with therapy, especially with this Dr. Cressy, was really pivotal for him.
In what way?
Well, it helped him see that his parents were actually on his side.
Right.
Which is so important for a young person.
Absolutely. You need that feeling of support.
Especially when you're dealing with these intense feelings.
And drives.
Yes. And Dr. Cressy also helped him learn to channel that energy in a more productive way.
Yeah, like aligning his goals with his parents' support.
Exactly. Instead of constantly butting heads.
Makes sense.
It really shows the impact that a good mentor can have. Or a therapist. At any age.
It's not just for kids or people with problems.
Exactly. It's about understanding yourself.
Right.
And learning how to navigate your own,
Your own inner world.
Yeah.
And then there's his mother. who he talks about a lot.
Yeah, she had these really high expectations for him.
Right.
Like, he even tried to outdo her level of, well, everything, it seems like.
Everything. Wow.
He laughed about it in the interview.
Sounds intense.
He mentioned things he didn't appreciate then.
Okay.
Like learning proper table manners or how to engage with adults.
I see.
But now he realizes how valuable those lessons were.
It's funny how that happens.
It is.
The things we resist when we're younger often become clear as we get older.
And it sounds like his mother instilled a strong sense of purpose in him.
Yes, and a certain standard of conduct.
Yeah, even if he maybe pushed back against it at first.
It became part of who he is.
And his parents, you know, they had these different styles of influence. Yeah. His mother with the high expectations, and his father who was more calm and steady.
Interesting, a good balance.
And he tells these stories about his father's support.
Okay.
During tough times, like when he got in trouble at the college computer center or when his first big customer didn't pay.
Oh, wow.
His dad was just this quiet, steady presence.
Like that classic father figure.
Yeah, providing that stability and wisdom.
Yeah.
And Gates knew he had that support no matter what.
That can make a big difference.
Especially when you're taking risks.
Right.
And he talked about how his relationship with his father got even closer after his mother passed away.
I see.
They started having these deeper, more intimate conversations.
That makes sense.
He even shared this story about a contract dispute he was in.
Okay.
And his father just said 3 words, "I hear you."
Wow.
It seems like a small thing, but it really resonated with him.
It's about feeling understood.
Yeah.
Especially in a stressful situation.
Exactly.
Validation can be so powerful.
And it's not every day you hear someone like Bill Gates.
Right. It's a super successful business person.
Talking openly about therapy.
It's refreshing.
Yeah. He started going at a young age.
That's interesting.
And he talked about how much it's helped him.
Over the years.
Yeah. Throughout his life to navigate challenges.
It's like he's normalizing the idea of seeking help.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a weakness. It's being proactive.
Totally. And he also reflected on something pretty personal.
Okay.
The possibility of being on the autism spectrum.
Interesting.
And how that might have shaped his experiences. He talked about consciously working on his social skills.
Because they didn't come naturally.
Right.
It's like he was adapting.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what this whole interview is about.
How so?
Well, the idea that sometimes our differences can actually become strengths.
When we understand them.
Yeah, and learn to manage them.
Like that word weakness in the title.
Right.
It might not be a weakness at all.
It could be something that pushes us to develop new skills.
Skills that other people might take for granted.
And he was really open about his early management style, too.
Oh, yeah, how he used to manage others the same way he managed himself.
Yeah, that intense drive.
Right.
But he realized that doesn't work for everyone.
Not at all.
And he had to evolve his approach.
It's a common lesson for leaders.
It is. You have to adapt to different personalities and working styles.
And figure out what motivates each person.
Exactly.
And what about his relationship with Steve Jobs?
Oh, man, that's legendary.
A classic rivalry.
But there was more to it than just competition.
Right.
They actually worked together early on.
Oh, no.
Like Apple II Basic.
Okay.
And later on, some Macintosh software.
Interesting.
And Gates used this analogy I thought was really good.
What was it?
He said it was like General Motors versus Mercedes.
I like that.
Both striving for excellence, but in different ways.
Yeah, with different philosophies.
Yeah.
There's definitely competition there.
Absolutely.
But also a recognition of each other's strengths.
And a level of respect.
Even if it wasn't always obvious.
And he talked about having these later conversations with Jobs.
Oh, yeah.
About family and the impact of computers on society.
Okay.
And he even admitted to admiring Jobs' intuition for design and user interface.
Even amidst the competition.
Yeah, they both understood the power of personal computing.
Right.
And were pushing towards a similar future.
In their own ways.
And it's interesting, he also mentioned his relationships with Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg.
Other tech giants.
Yeah, and how it's different with Elon Musk.
Okay.
And he even talked about giving Zuckerberg advice.
About what?
Based on Microsoft's experience with antitrust issues.
That's huge.
It is. It's like he's trying to help the next generation of tech leaders.
Right. Learn from the past.
Avoid making the same mistakes.
And now a big focus for Gates is philanthropy.
Absolutely. Giving back in a major way.
That's inspiring.
And he credits his mother for instilling that in him.
How so?
She always told him that if he achieved success, he had a responsibility to give back.
That's a powerful message.
It really is.
It shaped his whole perspective on success.
He talked about the almost insane nature of holding on to so much wealth.
It's hard to even fathom.
And he emphasized the importance of returning it to society to make a positive impact.
In what areas specifically?
Well, he talked about addressing things like malaria.
Okay.
And malnutrition.
Global health issues.
Yeah, where governments might be slower to act.
I see. Because of political constraints.
Yeah. Or risk aversion.
Philanthropy can be more agile.
Exactly. And he also talked about the giving pledge.
Right. Encouraging other billionaires to give back.
And it was interesting, he pointed out that it's easy to measure wealth.
Yeah.
But the true impact of philanthropy
that's much harder to quantify.
Exactly. It's not just about the dollars donated.
Right. It's about the long-term effects.
And he even shared a story about a conversation he had with Bernie Sanders about billionaires.
Wow. That's got to be an interesting conversation.
And it shows how differently people view wealth and its role in society.
Yeah. Different perspectives.
And he also talked about Warren Buffett's influence on him.
Oh, yeah. Buffett's a big philanthropist, too.
A huge influence.
It sounds like those early conversations really shaped Gates's approach to giving.
And he even mentioned meeting with Donald Trump to discuss global health and innovation.
That's interesting.
It shows how committed he is
to these issues.
Yeah, across political divides.
It's about the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
So what about the future?
Well, he's clearly concerned about artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah, and how it's developed and used.
That's a hot topic right now.
And his perspective is especially important.
Because of his background in tech.
Exactly. He understands how technology can reshape society.
Both for good and bad.
He sees the potential of AI, but also the potential dangers.
Like what?
Well, he talked about algorithms. That could prioritize outrageous or false information.
The spread of misinformation.
Yeah, that's a huge concern.
It is.
But he also talked about the positive potential of AI. Like in education.
That makes sense.
It's a mix of optimism and caution.
He sees both sides of the coin.
And he also touched on the tricky balance between free speech and preventing the spread of harmful content.
Right, like with vaccines, for example.
Yeah, and he admitted to being disappointed.
In what?
That his generation hasn't figured out how to foster reasonable online discourse.
It's a tough challenge.
It really is.
Finding that balance.
And he also made a point about education. Technology alone isn't enough.
Right.
There has to be motivation.
Intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, and he talked about the decline of third spaces.
What are those?
Like those informal community hubs where people connect.
Oh, I see.
And he thinks that's had an impact.
On our ability to reflect and connect.
Exactly. And he briefly touched on the decline of religion. And the need for modern equivalents.
Interesting.
To create community and reinforce values like the golden rule.
It's about finding ways to connect.
In a meaningful way.
And he also got personal about his own growth.
Yeah, he talked about mellowing over time. And valuing different types of intelligence.
Not just book smarts.
And he admitted to having insecurities early on.
Like what?
Wanting to be seen as the smartest person in the room.
That's relatable.
It is.
And it shows how self-aware he is.
Yeah.
To be able to recognize those tendencies in himself.
And he emphasized the importance of taking time to read and think.
His think weeks.
Yeah. Carving out space for deep work.
Even for someone as busy as him.
He believes in it.
Clearly.
And when asked about the most impactful book he's read, he mentioned Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker.
Interesting.
It's about how violence has actually declined over time.
Despite what we see in the news.
Exactly.
A more optimistic view.
And then he was asked what one law everyone should follow.
What did he say?
The golden rule.
Simple but powerful.
It speaks to his values.
It does.
So to wrap up this deep dive into Bill Gates's insights, I think a few key things stand out.
What are they?
The power of focused passion. The lasting impact of family. The importance of self-awareness and growth.
Absolutely.
The complexities of competition and collaboration.
Yeah.
And the responsibility that comes with success.
Those are big takeaways.
They are.
And that reflection he shared.
Yeah.
About possibly being on the autism spectrum.
So insightful.
It shows how powerful it can be.
Yeah.
To understand your own unique wiring.
Exactly. And it's something to think about. Gates talked about his monomaniacal focus.
Right.
What's something in your life where that kind of intense dedication could make a difference?
I see.
Maybe not to that extreme.
Right.
But even in smaller bursts.
It's about finding that focus.
And he also talked about third spaces.
Yeah. those community hubs.
How can you seek those out?
Right.
Or even create new ones?
It's about building connections.
Absolutely. This deep dive into Bill Gates's world really offers a lot to think about.
For sure.
And if you want to explore even more, we highly recommend checking out the full interview on the Jay Shetty podcast.
Good stuff.
Now, if you enjoyed this deep dive and it gave you some new perspectives, make sure to subscribe and follow our channel,
so you don't miss future episodes.
Right.
Or deep dives, rather.
Deep dives.
And we really value your comment.
Yeah, help us shape what we cover.
So let us know what you thought of this episode.
Down in the comments below.
And if you want to support our work.
Yeah.
And help us keep bringing you these in-depth analyses.
You can find a link to our Patreon. In the description.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Always a good time.
Always.